At the beginning of the film, we're told that in Sundanese culture, there are certain social restrictions and superstitions, taboos, that, if broken, can lead to terrible consequences. Right after that, we see a woman writhing in pain as if something is choking her. Suddenly, she loses consciousness and begins to float in the air. Then the scene cuts, and we go back 3 days earlier. Here we meet Jaka and his pregnant wife Rika, who are returning to their village from Jakarta after 20 years. As they travel, Jaka asks about his wife's health. She reassures him that their unborn baby is perfectly healthy and strong. Instead of going straight to their house, they decide to visit Sisep first. After Jaka's mother passed away, Sisep had been taking care of their home. At Sisep's place, they meet him and his grandmother. Jaka explains that they've found a buyer for their old house, so they've come back to clean it up. Sisep's grandmother gives a serious warning to Rika, emphasizing that a pregnant woman must be very careful and should strictly follow local customs. Ignoring these rules, she says, can be dangerous. After that, Sisep takes them to Jaka's old house. Jaka steps out of the car and walks onto the balcony, where something about a window catches his attention. Just then, Sisep calls out to him. The scene suddenly shifts into a flashback where we see a young woman cutting her nails. A man approaches her and warns her not to cut her nails at night, calling it a taboo, a sin. He reminds her to be patient as a soldier's wife since her husband is serving the country. Her husband was supposed to return last week, but hasn't come back yet, so the man tells her to wait a few more days. The scene returns to the present, and Jaka enters his house. As soon as he steps inside, he notices that the electricity isn't working, and the furniture is covered in thick dust. There's no light in the house. Seeing this, Sisep mentions that he brought kerosene as a precaution so they can light a lamp. After handing it over, Jaka asks him to bring an electrician the next day. Sisep gives him a bunch of keys and leaves. After that, Jaka and Rika begin cleaning the house together. While cleaning, Jaka tries to open a locked room, but it won't budge. So instead, he opens a room next to it and decides they'll sleep there. They clean and set up the bedroom nicely. Meanwhile, Rika goes to clean the bathroom, where she finds a large amount of hair scattered around. She picks it up and throws it into the trash. After cleaning the bathroom, Rika notices strands of hair there again, just like before, when she goes to throw them into the trash. She realizes the previous hair is still sitting there too. Later that night, while closing the window, Rika accidentally chips her nail. So she starts trimming and smoothing it with a nail clipper. Just then, Jaka stops her, warning her not to cut nails at night, as people believe it can bring death. Rika questions him, asking how he can still believe in such superstitions, especially as a journalist. Jaka admits that he's currently unemployed and is now a former journalist. His wife comforts him. That night, while sleeping, Rika suddenly wakes up after hearing strange noises. She steps out of the room alone to check. Outside, she hears the sound of someone clipping nails. As she moves forward, she spots a photo of the same girl we saw earlier in the flashback. As Rika turns to leave, the photo suddenly tilts to one side on its own. She quickly fixes it and rushes back into the room. Back inside, she hears someone crying from the next room. Rika presses her ear against the wall, trying to listen closely, and suddenly, she falls. The camera then shifts to that room, where the girl is seen sitting and crying after receiving news of her husband's death. The scene cuts to the next day. Jaka is trying to unlock that room, but none of the keys given by Cecep work. Rika is impatient and wants to check the room immediately, but Jaka tells her to stay calm and wait until Cecep arrives. Rika insists that what she experienced wasn't a dream. She really heard someone clipping nails and strange sounds coming from the other side of the wall. Jaka then searches for the key himself and finds a cupboard containing some offerings and a photo of that girl. Rika asks who she is. Jaka says it's his sister, Ninanden. But when Rika asks more about her, Jaka admits he doesn't remember much, only that there was some kind of major accident. His wife tells him not to dwell on it too much. Meanwhile, Cecep arrives at the house. Jaka asks him if he can push the house selling date forward by one day, since the cleaning isn't finished yet. Cecep has brought an electrician with him. Rika throws away the bowl filled with offerings and asks Cecep if people in the village still perform these rituals for spirits. Cecep explains that it's an old tradition meant to keep evil forces away. Rika then asks about Jaka's family. Cecep says his grandmother would know more, but he does mention that Jaka's father was a highly respected man in the village. When Rika asks about Nandan, Cecep tells her she was a famous Sindan, a traditional singer, but he avoids going into details about her past. Meanwhile, the electrician fixes the power line. Jaka asks Cecep if he knows a locksmith who can open the mysterious locked door, and Cecep promises to bring someone the next day. After that, they continue cleaning the house. In the kitchen, Jaka tells Rika to take care of her health and get some rest. Suddenly, he looks outside and sees Rika standing there. At the same time, Rika is also inside the house. Seeing her in two places at once, Jaka freezes in fear. When he turns back, the Rika outside has vanished. The real Rika, noticing his distracted expression, asks if he's even listening to her. Jaka pretends everything is normal and brushes it off. Later that evening, Jaka is working at the table when he finds a box filled with books and other items. Rika comes in and says the cupboard only has white sheets. Jaka jokes that the white pillowcases look just like pocong, an Indonesian ghost wrapped in burial cloth. That scares Rika a little. Jaka teases her, asking since when she started believing in such things. While talking about taking care of her hair, Rika brings up the locked room again. She's confused. Every room in the house has been opened, except for Jaka's sister's room. She starts to suspect that something terrible must have happened to his sister in the past, something Jaka is hiding. But Jaka insists that nothing like that ever happened. Then, in a flashback, we see Nandan in the bathroom, cutting her hair with scissors, while her mother desperately begs her to open the door. Nandan finally comes out and asks her mother if she looks beautiful, saying she's preparing a surprise for her husband. Her mother, shaken, tells her that Handra is no longer alive, but Nandan refuses to believe it. The mother tells Nandan to go back to her room, because if her father sees her in this condition, he'll be furious. Just then, Nandan's father, Dedong, arrives. He forcefully drags her into her room and locks her inside. Dedong says that he is a highly respected man in the village. He explains that if people find out about Nandan's madness, his reputation will be completely ruined. The scene then cuts back to the present, where Rika is sleeping alone on the bed. When she doesn't see her husband Jaka, she starts to worry. She gets up to look for him, picks up a pillow that had fallen to the floor, places it back on the bed, and opens the door to search for him. But when she looks back into the room, she notices the pillow is no longer on the bed. Slightly panicked, she finds it under the bed, pulls it out, and places it back again. Eventually, she goes back to sleep. But this time, she suddenly sees a dead body wrapped in a burial shroud lying right beside her. Terrified, she wakes up instantly. On the other side, Jaka is reading a diary he found inside a box. In it, his mother had written that even though his father is strict, he truly loves Nandan. She also writes about how difficult it is to cope with the pain of losing her husband, yet she still deeply cares for Nandan. Just then, Rika comes in and tells Jaka that she had a nightmare. She says something feels very wrong in this house and starts asking him about his family. Jaka tries to remember and recalls that when he was 6 years old, his grandmother used to pick him up from school. He says he wanted to live in this house with his parents, but they never allowed him to stay, which made him very sad. Rika comforts him. The next day, Jaka tries to peek into his sister's room from an outside window. He sees a door inside slowly opening. Suddenly, a rat appears near his hand, scaring him so badly that he falls from the window, but narrowly escapes a serious accident. Meanwhile, Cecep brings a locksmith to open the mysterious locked room. On the other side, inside the house, Rika trims her hair and begins cleaning up the fallen strands. Suddenly, she hears the sound of hair being cut again, and more strands start falling from above. She looks up, but sees no one. However, we can see Nandan standing right behind her. Suspicious, Rika turns around, but there's no one there. Instead, the water tap suddenly turns on by itself. She gets up and turns it off. Then, as she wipes her hands and looks into the mirror, she sees Nandan standing behind her. Terrified, Rika runs straight to Jaka. But when she sees Cecep and the locksmith there, she brushes it off and changes the subject. Later, while the locksmith is busy picking the lock, Rika pulls Jaka aside and tells him she saw a woman in the bathroom, and it wasn't her imagination. She urges him to let Cecep handle selling the house and leave immediately, because something is seriously wrong with this place. But Jaka refuses. He says it's just one more day. Once they get the money from selling the house, they'll leave and go far away. Rika starts to feel like money matters more to Jaka than her mental state. She insists they leave today. Meanwhile, the locksmith finally unlocks the door to the mysterious room. Jaka steps inside and finds a chain, triggering a flashback. It's revealed that Nenden was once tied up with that very chain. After losing her husband, Nenden had lost her mental stability. On the other side, her mother is shown writing all of this in a diary, the same diary Jaka had read the night before. After writing, the mother goes to Nenden, removes the chain from her feet, hugs her, and breaks down in tears. The scene cuts back to the present, where Jaka starts cleaning the room. While cleaning, he discovers a note. Meanwhile, Jaka's wife finds incense sticks in the house and starts questioning Cecep. The locksmith explains that villagers believe these are offerings used to calm a restless spirit. If the spirit isn't satisfied, it can cause serious trouble. Now suspicious, Jaka's wife asks Cecep about Jaka's family and Nenden. Cecep denies everything, clearly too scared to speak. She realizes he's hiding something big. Eventually, Cecep agrees to tell the truth about Nenden, and the scene shifts into another flashback. Nenden's mother sees her climbing a tall tree. She begs her to come down, apologizing for her past behavior, but Nenden doesn't listen. Instead, she ties a rope around her neck, jumps from the tree, and dies instantly. During this conversation, Cecep suddenly notices Jaka and quickly decides to leave the house in a hurry. He doesn't even finish his coffee. After that, Rika starts behaving very strangely with Jaka. Confused, he asks what's wrong. Rika directly questions him. Does he really not remember anything about his family, or is he hiding the truth? Then she reveals the shocking reality. Jaka's sister, Nenden, committed suicide in this very house. Even now, Jaka insists he remembers nothing. But Rika pressures him harder than ever to leave the house immediately. Jaka says they have nowhere to go and no money left. According to him, selling the house is the only way to escape their financial problems. Rika suggests borrowing money from her parents, but Jaka refuses. He feels it would destroy his self-respect. Frustrated, Rika snaps back, saying Jaka only cares about his ego, not about her or their unborn child. Jaka argues that he's staying in this cursed house for their future, trying to fulfill his responsibilities. The scene cuts to night. Jaka is sitting alone on the balcony, crying. As he gets up to go inside, a radio suddenly turns on by itself. He picks it up, but when he hears his own name coming from it, he throws it to the ground. The radio breaks, yet it keeps playing. Suddenly, Nanden appears behind him, only to vanish the next moment. Out of nowhere, a spirit lunges at Jaka from above and starts choking him. Moments later, Rika arrives, and everything goes quiet. Jaka hugs her tightly and says they will leave the house first thing in the morning. The scene shifts into a flashback. Nanden's mother blames herself for her daughter's death, but her husband tells her it wasn't her fault. He suggests they leave this house and start a new peaceful life with Jaka. Later, while taking a shower, the father drops the soap. Suddenly, he hears Nanden's voice. Terrified, he freezes. Then Nanden appears in front of him, and in panic, he slips on the soap. He hits his head and dies on the spot. The story returns to the present. Jaka is reading a book that explains how to calm Nanden's spirit. It says they need coffee, incense, a coconut shell, a doll, and a wedding dress. The incense must be lit before sunrise, along with a specific prayer. Jaka then goes into his sister's room, where a cupboard suddenly swings open on its own. As he steps forward, he accidentally kicks a doll. The moment he picks it up, he hears a voice calling from outside. Grabbing a lamp, he follows the sound out. Meanwhile, Rika wakes up and panics when she doesn't find her husband beside her. As she tries to leave the room, the door slams shut right in her face. At the same time, the swing hanging from a tree on the balcony starts moving on its own, and his sister's spirit enters the house from there. Rika desperately tries to open the door, calling out for Jaka. Hearing her voice, Jaka rushes back toward the house, but the door shuts on its own. He runs around to the back, but suddenly falls, and a sharp stick pierces straight into his knee. Meanwhile, Rika keeps trying desperately to open the door. Suddenly, the spirit of Nenden appears right behind her. On the other side, Jaka somehow manages to pull the rod out of his knee. He breaks the window glass, climbs into the room, and tries to calm Rika down. Jaka tells her he found a note from his mother, explaining how to pacify Nenden's spirit. Now their only task is to gather the items listed in the note and perform the ritual. They begin collecting everything one by one: coffee, a coconut shell, and a drum. But there's one crucial item missing: a wedding dress. In a flashback, it's revealed that Nenden's mother had also managed to gather all the items except the wedding dress. While searching for it, she suddenly hears Nenden's voice, crying in pain, repeatedly calling out to her mother. Her spirit keeps demanding a wedding dress. Completely broken, Nenden's mother begs for forgiveness. The scene cuts back to the present. The wedding dress is nowhere to be found. Jaka and Rika realize the ritual was never completed before, making it extremely dangerous and unpredictable. Suddenly, Rika starts behaving strangely. Jaka tries to calm her, but she begins screaming in terror. He shouts at the invisible Nenden, warning her to stay away from his family. Out of nowhere, Rika scratches his hand, and the scene flashes back again. We see a young Jaka trying to peek into his unstable sister Nenden's room. Suddenly, Nenden attacks and scratches his hand. Jaka calls for his father, who rushes in, drags Nenden back into the room, and chains her feet. Nenden insists she's not crazy and begs to be set free. Back in the present, Rika starts acting just like her. Jaka fails to calm her and goes to the storage room to find something, but ends up getting trapped. Meanwhile, Nenden's spirit begins choking Rika, just like we saw at the beginning of the movie. Rika loses consciousness, and the spirit lifts her into the air. At the same time, Jaka finds a box containing the missing wedding dress. But suddenly, Rika appears and attacks him with an axe. Jaka struggles to defend himself. He gets a chance to stand, but Rika grabs him from behind and starts choking him. Desperate, Jaka grabs a glass bottle nearby and strikes her, knocking her unconscious. He quickly takes the wedding dress and goes to complete the ritual. Just as he begins, Rika returns, but can't enter because Jaka has locked the door from inside. Still, she tries to disrupt the ritual from outside. Then suddenly, everything goes silent. Hearing Rika crying outside, Jaka opens the door and hugs her. But in the very next moment, he realizes Rika is still under Nenden's control. He slowly steps back, but suddenly, a table slams into him from behind with brutal force. Then Rika throws the table back at Jaka once again. She grabs one of the table legs and lunges straight at him. Jaka tries to hold her off and starts chanting the spell again. After a long and intense struggle, Nenden's soul finally leaves Rika's body. The scene then cuts, and the next day arrives. A buyer shows up to purchase the house. Jaka hands over all the documents, and the two of them part ways. Chechep gets into the car with Jaka and starts driving. Inside the car, Jaka continues reading the remaining pages of his mother's diary. His mother apologizes, writing that she couldn't spend much time with him. She reveals that a dark curse had been looming over their family. Everything started going wrong after Jaka's brother-in-law died and his sister gave birth to a stillborn child. In a flashback, we see that when Nenden was chained up, she was actually pregnant. Jaka's mother further explains that all these tragedies were caused by their ancestors breaking an ancient taboo. That's what led to the family's horrific fate. Just then, Chechep tells Jaka that they've arrived at their destination. With this, the story ends here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Also, subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.